Hello, everyone. I'm Bill Allen, the producer of Loren Live VMG. We're glad you're joining us today. Loren's coming to you live on several streaming platforms like Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, followed by a live question and answer session afterwards. Love, comment, share, and tag all of your friends, and get ready to hear from the next governor of Washington State.
Who is Loren Culp? Frequently asked questions and vaccinations for all children. These subjects and more today on Loren Live VMG. I am your host remotely here with the insubordinate one, Mr. Loren Culp. Loren, welcome to a remote VMG.
How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing good.
Good to be with everybody.
Absolutely. So we are out here in Yakima. We're getting ready for a big rally tomorrow, actually a series of rallies tomorrow and also Sunday. And we are hitting the campaign trail hard the rest of this month and on into June. So we have a busy schedule coming up.
We do. I'm looking forward to it.
Things are ramping up.
Yeah, it's getting real. I mean, it's serious. Campaign is just, it's going full speed ahead.
We got about 9 weeks left before 10 weeks left before Election Day. And these are going to be the busiest weeks that we have.
Yep, I'm putting in for time off and going to be campaigning.
Full time.
Yep.
All right, there we go.
And we're doing it.
So, we get a lot of questions every day from email, Facebook, Twitter, a whole bunch of different ways. Hundreds, yes,
day,
literally
yes.
Every day, yes.
Yep.
And so much so that we've had to bring on staff to help field all of the questions, and also to field all of the requests for signs and for shirts and collateral and different things that the campaign have just exploded.
Yeah, and we talked about the other day, I think there's a commonly asked questions page going up.
Yes.
Sometime soon.
On the website, we're going to be putting up a frequently asked questions page tonight. Because we're remote, we can't see the questions and the comments that our viewers are putting up. So we're not going to actually take questions from the audience tonight. But we do have a bunch of Q&A questions that we actually hear most often get asked through email and through Facebook and different avenues. So we're gonna ask those questions tonight and get some answers to the folks. The big question that people that have never heard of you, they don't know about what happened with 1639. They don't really know. All they know is that you're a guy from the East Side. So our first question tonight, Loren, is who is Loren Culp?
Who is Loren Culp? That you should probably have my mom on here to answer that.
I called her; she wasn't available.
Oh, darn it! All right, Mom, answer the phone. A lot of people haven't heard about me. Even after my stance, and I was on the national news, and I was going to sportsman shows and speaking and meeting a lot of people. Mm-hmm. You would be, well, maybe not, but I was surprised at how many people would come to a sportsman show or a gun show and not even know anything about 1639.
Right.
I mean, we're talking Washington residents, and these
Right.
are people that are going to a sportsman show, and they hadn't even heard of it.
Right.
So, yeah, there's a lot of people that haven't heard about me, but there's a lot less than there was last July.
That's for sure.
That's a fact. But we're getting the word out there. But I'm a lifelong resident of Washington State. I was born in Everett in 1961. That's a long time ago. And I grew up in a farming community called Chimacum. It's right outside of Port Townsend on the Olympia Peninsula. And we lived on a farm. It's probably 60, 80 acres.
Mm-hmm.
We had all the farm animals, including a milk cow, and pigs, horses, cows, and a donkey named Don Poncho, who I'll never forget. He loved to eat cigarettes.
Really?
Not mine. I was too young to smoke, but yeah. That's where I spent most of my younger years, cutting hay and doing chores, taking care of the animals, riding horses, and dirt bikes too.
Right.
So my mom worked at the post office, and my dad was a deputy sheriff over there in Jefferson County. And in my freshman year of high school, my parents moved us over to Republic and bought a lumberyard, the only lumberyard and hardware store in Republic. And I spent my high school years over there hunting and fishing and trapping beaver and muskrat to make extra spending money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just what country boys do, I guess.
Sure.
But met my high school sweetheart over there in Republic, and then went off and enjoyed the adventure of the United States Army for 4 years.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you're the only veteran who is actually running in the governor's race this
Right.
cycle.
Yeah. Yep. The only veteran. I served in the 101st Airborne Division, world famous. And they've been around a long time.
Couple years.
And yeah, I was a sergeant there. I went to drill sergeant school at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Spent some time training civilians, turning them into soldiers. I was a combat engineer. And after 4 years, got out of the military and moved to the Olympia area, where I started my own construction business and ran that for over 20 years. So,
what does a combat engineer do?
a combat, now that is a good question. A combat engineer is one of the most fun jobs in the United States military, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it might not be as great as, riding around on boats and submarines that you did in the Navy or planes.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I was in the aviation wing of the
Right.
Navy.
But a combat engineer builds things, get training on like building bridges and the breaching buildings with explosives, blowing things up, going through minefields and detecting mines and getting them out of the ground so that they don't hurt the troops that are following.
Mm-hmm.
And that we get to blow a lot of things up. It was fun. Dynamite and C4. C4 is plastic explosives. You can mold it, put a get the det cord or a fuse, whichever, because we were old school too back then. I mean, we had the fuse where you lit it and you'd see it burning along the ground.
Like Mission Impossible style.
Yeah, but you stick a blasted cap in it and you can shape it any shape you want and it'll blow.
Wow.
You can also cut off little pieces and light it on fire and heat up your C rations. And for those of you who don't know what C rations are, they're the predecessor to the MREs. Everything came in a can.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's old school. So
right.
You got out of the Army and you came to Olympia. You opened up you started in construction.
Yeah, I worked in construction for a couple years. Yeah, I also worked in a rope factory up in Anacortes. I worked in the refineries in Anacortes because part of my job as a combat engineer was heavy equipment operator. Mm-hmm. And so I worked for some time in the refineries up in Anacortes operating a crane. Right. And then a rope factory, and then a few years in construction, residential construction, learned how to do concrete work and foundations, framing houses.
In fact, one of our events, the gentleman that you worked for that taught you how to do construction was at one of our events.
Yes.
In fact, the event up in Anacortes, he was there, I believe.
We did an event in Aberdeen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Paul Thornock, he's a contractor in Grays Harbor County. Paul taught me and my brothers how to be a world-class framer,
Yeah.
you know, how to build houses the right way. And he's still a contractor in Elma right now.
That was a really special moment because I remember he got emotional when he was standing up talking to the people that were there, when he gave, he lent his endorsement to you.
Right.
And that was a really special moment. It
Yeah.
really was.
Yeah, Paul and his wife Bonnie, they're lifelong friends, have been
Sure.
since I got out of the military.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, when you teach someone a craft or a skill, to where they can go and make a living,
Sure.
I mean, you can't put a price on that.
Right.
And it's real world practical stuff,
Right.
and that allowed me to start my own business and feed my family and take care of my family very well for over 20 years.
Yeah, and that's important because there's a lot of small business owners, maybe some of you that are watching, that are in a situation where, you've set out, you've made the sacrifices that small business owners make. You've sacrificed and risked your own capital, your time, your talent, your treasure, and you're in a situation where, by the stroke of a pen or by just a proclamation by
A dictator. You're out of work.
Yeah, and so as a small business owner, how do you think, if you were still in business and Governor Inslee did to you what he's done to so many of our viewers tonight, how do you think that would have affected you?
If I was still running my construction business,
Yes.
it would have been devastating. But I mean, I think that I still had, the mindset that I have right now about government overreach and tyrannical type of edicts like he has over the state right now, I would have gone to work.
Sure.
That's just my nature,
Right.
I believe in individual freedom and liberty.
Sure.
And I always have. I mean, my parents ingrained that in me when I was young.
Right.
And I would have gone to work. I mean, who is he to tell me that I can't earn money and take care of my family and do my job? But I just don't get that. How, yes, he's governor, but to think that he has that much power, and what bothers me even more is people are so easily swayed and so easily go along with it. I understand at first. It was scary. It's like, what the heck is going on? Why is everybody freaking out and putting all these restrictions on us? This must really be serious, right? That was the first thought that came to my mind. It's like, why are they doing this now? We've never had anything close to this on any pandemic or anything. You'd have to go back to World War II when Democratic president put Japanese Americans in internment camps.
Yes.
Took away their rights, and that's basically it's what's happening right now. Our rights are being taken from us. We are told we can't go to church. That's a violation of the First Amendment. We're told that we can't peaceably assemble. That's a violation of the First Amendment as well. So that's very strange, that we were also so eager to go along with it. Like I said, I understand at first, figure out what's going on, but now that more and more facts are coming out, it's time to get back to work. And it's scary. I understand that. It's scary to think that, okay, I got my business, I need to go to work, but if I go to work, they're going to shut me down. They're going to pull my license. It's scary. I think that a lot of Washington business owners are starting to feel the same way that I did back in 2018 when the anti-gun initiative passed, 1639, that said that if you're 18 to 21, you can't leave your property with a semi-automatic rifle. You can't buy one. And if a criminal breaks into your house, steals a gun, commits a crime, you as a homeowner could be charged with up to a felony. Totally unconstitutional. And I knew that. but I didn't hesitate to do the right thing. I could have lost my job. I could have been out of work. Because I'm not elected as the chief of police, I'm appointed. But there comes a point where you have to just do what you know is right, no matter what the consequences. I had a business owner friend of mine the other day, I was talking to him about it, and he said, well, if I do, they're going to put me out of business. And I looked at him like he was from another planet. It's like they have already put you out of business. You were out of business now. It's just time for Washingtonians to stand up and say, we're done with this charade. You know, there's no real roadmap. It changes every week. Jay Inslee has said himself, he's on video, talking about using this crisis to push the Green New Deal. So the agenda went from flatten the curve to we don't really know, I'll let you know next week, to we're gonna push the Green New Deal because of this, and still keep you shut down. We don't know if school's going to open in the fall. It's definitely closed for the rest of this year. So where's the goalpost? The goalpost keeps getting moved, and we know what's going on now. The data's coming out. Less than 1% of the population is going to possibly die from this, but they've got the forget what that malaria medication that President Trump's been talking about. That's been very, very effective.
Sure.
That they're trying to quash that information.
Right.
From what I see.
Right.
So we know what we're facing now. It's time to get back to work. And I mean, what's going to happen if most of the businesses in Washington State just open up?
Right.
You know, we're going to see that the emperor has no clothes on.
Well, the governor has unleashed his pit bull, A.G. Ferguson.
Oh, you mean the Chihuahua?
On several businesses. There's a lady that we're going to have on the show this coming week, who her gym, she had reopened her gym, and they're now attacking her. She's also being attacked in the media as well. I have been, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. I know personally I have been not surprised, but still astounded at how the fake news media has carried water for this governor and not asked him the tough questions and really provided him cover to execute what they're doing to small businesses, putting them out of business, changing where the goalposts are. How do you feel about how the media has handled this, causing panic and everything?
Well, all we have to, I mean, we've been seeing the bias in the media, mostly in the national media over the last 3.5 years.
Sure.
Over the Russia, and everything that's been going on in the national scene.
Sure.
And I'm not surprised that there's liberal bias in a lot of the local media. There are some good reporters. Sure. But yeah, I'm not surprised at that at all. Yeah. You know, they report what they want to report. Right. Not necessarily the facts all the time. Right. But I think the citizens see that, they realize that, and know what's going on. You know, there was I think it was a beauty shop owner in Texas. Yes. A week or two ago. Yes. She actually got arrested. Right. For opening her shop. And thankfully, the governor and the lieutenant governor of Texas have some common sense. The governor ordered her out, released from jail, and the lieutenant governor, out of his own pocket, paid her fine. Right. It should never have come to that. Right. So the problem is not just that we're losing our rights, that Inslee thinks he has the power to take them away. The problem is that we're letting him, right? We need to stand up and say, no, you pull my license. Okay, great. I'm still going to work. I'm still opening my doors. If my customers want to come into my shop or they want the service that I provide, my customers and I will decide. That has nothing to do with the governor and what he thinks, because we know that he has a different agenda than what hardworking Americans have. It just takes some intestinal fortitude, and I'm going to do what I know is right, and whatever happens after that. That's on whoever causes a problem after that.
Is this type of thing, you really were affected by it in 2018 when 1639 came down. You were affected by it directly because you had citizens in your own community come to you and say, Chief Pope, how do you feel about this? You're going to start arresting people. As we move forward, how will you deal with situations like this as governor? When you're bound to have people in your administration who work for you, who are holdovers from prior administration, bureaucrats that have been in position for a long time. If they want to abuse the people, how are you going to deal with that in a Culp administration?
No one in the Culp administration is going to abuse the citizens. If they do, then they're going to be, at the very least, fired and probably prosecuted. I'm going to appoint people to the heads of the departments that have the same mindset that I do, that understand the rule of law, that understand the Constitution, and understand Article 1, Section 1 of the Washington State Constitution, which says that government is in place to protect citizens' rights, and the power is in the citizens. That the type of thing that's going on right now is not going to happen. I don't care what the next crisis is. Citizens' rights are not given to them. Excuse me. Their rights are not given to us by the government. Our rights come from God. Right. From our Creator. It says that right in the Declaration of Independence. And government was instituted to protect citizens' rights. So there won't be any abuse of citizens' rights going on after I'm governor. And the next crisis, no matter what it is, I'm going to have a solid grasp on the Constitution, which is the rule of law. And the nice thing about the Constitution, it doesn't care what color you are. It doesn't care what your background is, your ethnicity, or anything about you. Personally, it protects everyone, all the citizens equally. That's what the rule of law does. But when you have someone who doesn't understand that, then they just make arbitrary rules and regulations however they feel on a given day. And so you're always changing the rules, you're always moving the goalposts because you're not following the rule book. I talked about this, I think, on a couple shows ago. If you went to play a football game or you went to watch a football game and the referees change the rules however they want to during the game, it would be mass confusion. Nobody would want to play and nobody would want to watch because you don't know what's going on. And you have the same situation right now going on with our governor. He's the referee on the field, changing the rules, moving the goalposts, and nobody knows what's going on. And people are getting sick and tired of it, and rightfully so. But getting back, I don't think I finished that point, that it is scary to stand up and make a stand. And just stand up there and no, I'm not playing this game. I'm not dealing with this the way you're telling me I have to, because I'm a free individual. It was scary in 2018 when I did that. I was all alone on day one. I made that stance. I ended up on the national news because of my stance. It's scary because you don't know, because the other players on the other side, they don't have the same rule book you got. They don't read the Constitution. Right. They don't understand the rule of law. And so you don't know what the reaction is going to be. I could have been fired the next day.
Sure, consequences.
Right. But I didn't care because it was the right thing to do. And if I own my own business right now, that's the same attitude I'd have. It's like, I'm a free citizen. You don't have the power in the Constitution to take away my God-given rights. I'm opening my business. Do what you want to do. there has been a few states now where they have come down on business owners, fined them, pulled their license, and the Supreme Court, I think one of the states is Wisconsin.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court in that state said that the governor does not have the power to take away these citizens' rights.
Right.
That's the end of that. But you have to first stand up. You have to first exercise your rights. If someone's trampling on your rights, then stand up and say, no, you're not doing that. Peaceably.
Sure.
And let them do what they do. It'll all come out in the wash. But I understand it's scary. But that's what needs to be done.
You know, another scary situation that we're facing just today, I believe it was either today or yesterday. The superintendent of public instruction stated that schools next year might not open again unless the children are given a mandatory vaccination. That word mandatory is being thrown around really seems like every day there's something new. Mandatory. How do you feel about the mandatory?
Mandatory and comprehensive.
Right.
Hear those a lot.
Yeah, mandatory. Yeah, comprehensive is another buzzword.
And essential.
Essential, and then it's they create these black and white scenarios: in or out, essential, unessential, and so forth. How do you feel about the governor or the superintendent of public instruction coming out and who is just a bureaucrat, telling Washington families that you're going to vaccinate your child with a vaccine that is unproven, not shown to have any sort of benefits towards keeping your children safe? What would you say to that?
I would tell parents that you are in charge of your children. The government is not. And who do you trust more to take care of your health and your children's health? A government bureaucrat or you? I firmly believe that parents are in charge of their children, not the government, not an elected or unelected bureaucrat, not anybody in any department. Parents, and parents need to choose what's going to be put in their child's body. I don't care if it's proven or unproven. I don't care. It's up to the parents, and we need to return that power back to the parents. And even further, as far as the education that's going on, we need to get rid of the top-heavy educational bureaucracy that we have in this state. Bring it back to the local level, to the parents, and the local school board, who are elected by the local people to decide what's going to be taught in the classroom. And will not only get the education more in the control of the parents and the local community, but we will save money by eliminating this huge bureaucracy at the top, which sucks up most of the education money that we have, and mandates where money's going to be spent once it gets down to the lower levels.
Do you think that homeschooling will become a more viable option for more families because of this?
I think it's always been a viable option.
Agreed.
Yeah, always has. Barb and I spent, I think it was a few years. Have to talk to Nick and Adam, they would know. But yeah, at least a couple of years, we homeschooled.
I did too, with my daughters.
Yeah, I know lots of parents have homeschooled. And homeschooled kids generally have better test scores.
Sure.
And if that's what parents want to do, then they should do it. And the money should come from the state to cover the costs of tuition because there's all kinds of online homeschooling.
Yes.
I mean, now, when we did it, we signed up for a program and we got the books and the literature and some VHS tapes.
Right.
This is a long time ago.
What's that?
We got
VHS tape
mailed to us. Yeah. And we taught our boys. And if parents want to do that, then money should come from the state to cover the tuition costs for the program that they're enrolled in.
Right.
If they want to send their kids to private school, same thing. It should be up to the parents. If they want to keep their kids in public school, then they should have the option of where they want their children to go in public school. Just because they live in one school district doesn't mean that they should have to go there. If it's a poorly run or they're not getting the results that the parents want for their children, they should be able to have their children go to a different school, and that's going to create competition.
Sure.
And competition, we know in the free market, competition breeds excellence, right? Everybody's got to raise their standards because there's competition now. The way that it's been forever, I mean, we're talking forever. There's no competition.
Right.
So what's the reason to raise the bar? You know, we've got some excellent teachers in this state. My grandma was a teacher. Back
up in Oak Harbor, right?
in Oak Harbor.
Yeah.
Yes.
My oldest girl went to elementary school at Oak Harbor Elementary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, my grandma was Mrs. Strom, for any of you folks in the Oak Harbor area. She taught second grade in probably the early 70s, into the 70s. And she didn't become a teacher till she was, I believe, in her 50s.
Wow.
Yeah, she always wanted to be a school teacher. And kind of like me, I always wanted to be a police officer.
Sure.
Waited till I was 49 to do it. Kind of taking after my grandma, I guess. But she went to college. My grandpa was a commercial fisherman. And she went to college, got her teaching degree, and became a school teacher. And she loved it.
On the subject of education, another question, and we were going to chat about this during the Q&A session, but I think this fits in really well right here, so I'm going to ask the question now. You know, the sex education bill was passed and then was signed ultimately by the governor, passed into law. It was pushed by special interests, by Planned Parenthood. What is your stance on the sex education bill here in Washington State?
I think it's absolutely disgusting and should not be taught in school. You know, cucumbers, bananas used to be part of a healthy diet. Now it's part of the curriculum to teach children about sex toys.
Right.
It's disgusting. And it should not be. I mean, it's, again, I go back to it should be up to the parents. That's a subject that parents and their children need to have. That's a discussion for family, not a government bureaucrat. And I'd also like to point out the fact that my daughter-in-law is also a school teacher. So I have family in education, have had. And education is very important. But we need to make sure that parents are in charge of the education.
Right. You know, as we transition into the Q&A session, I'd like, can you share a little bit about what we're doing this weekend as far as the rallies go? And so for those of our viewers at home, maybe if you're in the Yakima area or anywhere remotely on this part of the planet, you can make the drive out tomorrow and join us. Could you share with the folks a little bit about what's going on?
Yeah, and remotely in the area means if you can get here, get here.
Yeah.
Because anywhere I drive from Republic is not remotely close to Republic. I drove about 5 hours to get here. And we're having an event tomorrow afternoon. You'll have to tell everybody what time, and I forget the name of it. And then we're having a rally in Sela as well.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think we have all that posted on Facebook, right? As far as times and where it's at.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, if you are anywhere in Washington State, you can get to Yakima quicker than I did. So, so get in your car, get to Yakima and Sela, and we're going to have a huge rally.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
It's gonna be a great time. There's gonna be food, music, a bunch of speakers.
Yes.
You're one of the headline speakers there at one of the rallies.
We're going to have Culp swag.
Yep.
Signs.
Yep.
Books will be available. And yeah, the vendors, food, everything. Good speakers. So yeah, you guys.
It's gonna be great. Get some
get
fresh air.
Up and get over here.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I want to donate, how do I do that?
Go to culpforgovernor.com. That's our website, and people can donate there. You can also get a hold of one of the volunteers and donate in person if you want to. And
Absolutely.
make sure everybody goes to our Facebook page as well, which we're live on right now. I believe we're live on YouTube, at Culp for Governor. And leave a comment. If you want a yard sign, leave a comment, hashtag yard sign. And our virtual assistant, Lucy, will get a hold of you.
Absolutely. Yep. And someone from the campaign will reach out. Like we mentioned earlier, we get over 100 messages every day. Sometimes we miss them, and we try not to, and we work very hard to sift through those and to get to everybody. So if we miss you, please be patient with us. Maybe write us again. Let us know. We will definitely reach out to you and get that fixed up. So let's go into a little bit of Q&A. People are curious about, what would you do? What day one, what are maybe 2 or 3 things that you would do as governor on day one?
Make sure that all of my department heads that I'm appointing get sworn in and get in their office and get their butts to work.
Okay.
First thing. And I'm gonna appoint some great people that have the same mindset that I do, that the role of government is servant to the people, not the way that it has been. But I'm also gonna start eliminating unnecessary regulations starting day one. That doesn't take legislative approval.
Sure.
Reversing laws like 1639. We have 3 branches of government. Stuff like that's either going to have to be done through the legislature,
Sure.
And signed by the governor, or the courts, or through an initiative. So the governor's not a dictator. No matter what my competitors say sometimes.
Sure.
Day one, I'm going to do away with this law. I'm going to do away with that law. I'm going to lower tax. Well, no, you're not, because you're not a dictator. There's a rule of law in this state, and we're going to abide by that when I'm governor. So regulations, it's huge. Like I said a minute ago, I ran my own business for over 20 years. I know what regulations and taxes do to small business, especially,
Sure.
but all size businesses. And regulations have done nothing but pile on and pile on and pile on over the years. When's the last time you ever heard of rules and regulations being lessened in the state? Never.
Right.
They just, somebody else gets into office and there's more bureaucrats and they make up new rules, and it just keeps growing.
Sure.
So it strangles business. It strangles productivity. And so I'm going to start eliminating those from day one.
So let's switch gears here. This is a question that you and I have had discussions privately about this, and it's also a question that we get a lot from our viewers, and especially I fielded a lot of these questions. There are a lot of members of the LGBT community who are conservative, and many of them support our president. They support conservative values. How do you feel about the LGBT issues and so forth facing Washington State?
I love everyone. As governor, it doesn't matter what someone's lifestyle choices are. That's up to them. That's their private life. What business is it of the governor? It's none. That's how I feel about that. I believe that the Constitution protects everyone equally. The Constitution is colorblind, and it doesn't matter what sex or sexual preference you have. That's just the way I believe.
And would you agree with the government doesn't necessarily have a place in people's bedrooms regardless of their sexual orientation?
Yeah, that's
I know
what
for me, I don't want the government in my bedroom.
Yeah.
And
no, that's what being a free person is. If you're not violating someone else's rights or stepping on someone else's toes, the government should, within parameters, basically just butt out. It's none of the governor's business what you're doing in your bedroom. Whether it's for me personally or not, that doesn't matter.
Sure.
But as the governor, it's nobody's business.
Sure. this is another touchy subject, a subject that has been divisive, traditionally divisive for Republicans in particular, and just in general, it's been divisive as far as public opinion goes. Where do you stand on the abortion issue?
On abortion?
Yes, on the abortion issue.
I think that abortion is wrong. Personally, abortion is wrong. I wouldn't stand for someone killing a puppy or a kitten. I'm definitely not going to be for someone killing a baby. I mean, all life is precious, and that's my personal feeling on it. It's already been decided at the federal level, and so it's not really an issue that's going to come up as governor. I mean, I can't imagine Washington State Legislature putting a bill on my desk to overturn a federal decision.
Sure.
I don't see that ever happening.
Yeah, and also it would take an overturn of the Roe decision at the Supreme Court level of the United States to even open a pathway forward for that here at the legislative level.
Yeah.
So you don't predict that there would ever be a time where you would ever see legislation come across your desk regarding this.
Yeah, especially in Washington State. No.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, and I've been asked that a few times. You know, people have emailed me and said, you know, I love everything you stand for, but if you're against abortion, then I have to rethink it. You know, it's like, well, okay, something that will never come across my desk as governor of this state.
Sure.
As far as I can see,
Right.
it's a federal issue, been decided already. I'm personally against abortion, but as for me having any effect on that as governor, it's not going to happen as far as I, predict.
Sure.
And can see things down the road as far as I can, which is, tomorrow. But yeah, it's not going to be an issue. So a lot of people that align with me on all the other things, they're hung up on, maybe some people are hung up on this one thing, which is totally out of my control, as would be as governor anyway. So.
Sure. Something that is in your control is taxes, sales. Specifically, we get questions a lot about where is Mr. Culp on the push for a sales tax. I'm sorry,
Income
a
tax.
state income tax.
Yeah.
Yes. Boy, Lord knows we have sales taxes here in Washington State, but
Especially gas tax.
Yeah, gas tax. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I misstated the state income tax.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that if that comes to your desk, which it may?
Yeah. Well, I kind of think that that's probably what the legislature, as long as it stays in the liberal control, they're probably going to push that. But there's three things. If a bill comes across my desk, there's three rules, three tests that I have for any bill. And that's, number one, is it constitutional? And number two, is it good for the citizens of Washington State? Will it help the citizens of Washington State? And number three, can we afford it without any new taxes? So no, I am not for an income tax. We pay way too many taxes as it is. Property tax and gas tax are huge. The problem is, we have a big bloated government. And that's one thing that we're going to be facing, that the legislature is going to be staring right in the face with all this shutdown, especially if it continues on, is revenue, because we spend too much. So we're going to have to cut, just like everybody at home who either runs their own business or runs their own family. If their income all of a sudden gets cut off, they don't keep spending.
Right.
They chop off spending. Anything that's not critical doesn't get spent on. So that's the same way our government has to run.
I've seen this meme, and I can identify with it because it references a sailor. It says that the state government spends money like a drunken sailor, and the response on it was that that's not true, because even a drunken sailor knows to stop spending money when he runs out.
He's spending his own money.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of somebody else's.
Exactly. It's easy to spend money when somebody else is footing the bill.
Sure.
But the Washington citizens are getting tired of footing the bill for things that we don't need.
So I think they're spending at what was it, how many, 1 billion?
1 billion a week.
A week. Unbelievable.
$1 billion a week. That's what our state government spends. And look at the roads conditions.
Speaking of roads, good segue. Transportation. It's a big, even though COVID is on people's minds right now, being put out of business, paying the bills. Transportation is still something that has been on the minds of Washington voters for many election cycles.
Mm-hmm.
This one is no different. How do you feel about what the best pathway forward is on dealing with our terrible transportation problems?
Well, we've got transportation issues, definitely. I mean, I-5, especially through Tacoma, has been a constant construction project since I started my construction business in 1988. I mean, it's constant, and yet we don't have any better traffic, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And traveling around the state, I've been traveling a lot around the state. There are 2-lane highways, state highways, that have been 2-lane highways since I was a kid in the 60s. We need to get our tax dollars spent, you know, fuel tax, gas tax, spent on our roads. We need to increase the capacity of state highways. We need to stop thinking that Tacoma to Seattle is the only place where construction on our highways need to happen.
Right.
You know, we have a whole state. We have the Southwest, we have the Northwest, we have the North and South and Central Eastern side of the state as well. We need to open up our roads, you know, change these roads that are just 1 lane going each direction and have been since I was a kid, and get more lanes added there, because our products and services are transported on those highways all across the state. You know, the products come from the farms and factories and go to the stores, the consumers. We need to get those opened up, and then families vacation. They travel all across the state vacationing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Washingtonians don't even leave the state to go on vacation. You know, load up the kids, throw them in the camper, and off they go.
Right.
And so we need to have, I mean, this is obvious to anybody that lives in the state. Our transportation system is bad. And when you have someone in charge of that department in 2018, I believe it was 2018, he said that we can't fix the transportation in Washington State. And he's still in the job, as far as I know. So we need people in charge of these departments like that understand what the citizens are paying for and what the citizens need. Not someone who says, well, we can't fix it.
We get a lot of questions about tolls on roads that have already been paid for.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, who paid for it? The citizens with their taxes. And then when you drive on it, you have to pay a toll.
Right.
Yeah, I don't agree with that one bit.
Right. So, would you look at, as governor, removing some of the tolls that are on the roads that have already been paid for? Yeah,
and the person that I appoint in that position will be looking at that very hard right off the bat.
You know, a lot of Washingtonians feel like they pay tolls just to sit in traffic.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that would definitely be a welcome thing.
Mm-hmm.
A couple more questions here, and because we're running out of time here. And something that is of particular interest to folks in the Puget Sound area, Seattle, Tacoma. Really, this issue spreads across the state. Spokane, Vancouver, is the homelessness issue, the panhandling, the drug paraphernalia everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
What can be done as governor to handle that? Because I know some of the cities, Seattle specifically, really their state or their city government provides cover for a lot of these folks. What can you do as governor to affect that situation?
Well, there's always been, you know, and when I was a kid, I remember my parents and friends called them bums. You know,
right.
There were some bums that hung around in the downtown area. But what's happened recently, and it's just exploded in the last 5 to 10 years.
Sure.
You know, it didn't used to be like this in Seattle or in Spokane or Yakima or any place around the state. And the reason that it has is because we've made it more attractive for people to live that way. We've made it so that we're not charging for heroin crimes. You know, these people are stuck in addiction, and the left thinks that it's not compassionate to arrest someone for a narcotics crime, which is a felony in the state. It's not compassionate to put them in jail, but it's exactly the opposite. If someone is arrested for a narcotics crime, they go to jail, they see the judge gives them the option, treatment or jail. And most of them pick treatment. And I've experienced this in my law enforcement career. They get clean, they get out, they get their kids back, they get a job, they get married, they get a home, and become a productive member of our community. And we need to focus on that all across this whole state. Making it easy for someone to stay in the cycle of addiction is not helping them. It is making it harder for them. You know, the addicts that I've dealt with, and there's been a lot, tell me that they hated my guts at first when they got arrested and got sent to jail. But after they get their life together, they have come back and they've thanked me for saving their life. Thanked me for them getting their kids back. Because they're an addict. They can't quit on their own. You know, it's not like you wake up one day and say, oh, I'm not going to inject heroin today, or I'm not going to smoke heroin today. You can't do that. It's too strong of a narcotic. So leaving people stuck in the cycle of addiction, living on the streets, is not compassionate at all. And all it does is attract people from all over the country to come to places like Seattle or Spokane or wherever the laws are lax, and they allow them to live like this. It attracts people from all over the country who want to do drugs and hang out on the street. And then we've also got people that are living on the street with mental health problems. And our state government has not addressed that issue for decades. Right now, it's dumped on first responders. You know, I have taken many people who have tried to kill themselves and taken them to the hospital. And they meet with a first-line counselor, and yeah, I tried to kill myself. I want to kill myself. The counselor calls around the state to try to find a bed in a treatment facility where they can get psychiatric help. And 9 times out of 10, there is not one available. Western State Hospital lost its certification under Jay Inslee's watch. There's not a focus on fixing these problems. They want to just throw money at everything. You know, throw money at building houses for people living on the street. You can build a house for every person living on the street in the state of Washington, and tomorrow there will be thousands more coming here with their hand up saying, I want a house too. That's not fixing the problem. That's putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg. Did I get a little long-winded on that?
No, it seems like, you know, something you've talked a lot about is sending common sense to Olympia. What you just stated there seems to me like common sense.
It is. You know, I've thought about this a lot. If you were trying to ruin a state, there's some things that you could do that would help that to happen. You could make it not a crime, or allow it to be not a crime, for heroin possession and use, methamphetamine possession and use, right? You could let people live all over the streets, urinate, defecate, dirty needles, at the same time ban plastic straws, but give out millions and millions of plastic syringes for addicts. You could suggest that they have a safe place to inject so that they can be safe in their addiction problem. You could release thousands of prisoners out of your prisons at the same time. And you could tell citizens, law-abiding citizens, that you are on home arrest. That's the lunacy of the left. That's how you ruin a state. And that's what's going on right now.
It really is. It is complete lunacy. So as we wrap up tonight, could you share for our viewers at home one more time about our rally schedule coming up this weekend, and because sometimes people tune in and maybe they didn't hear
Right.
what you said earlier about our schedule this weekend, and really what we have coming up as far as rallies go in general throughout June and July.
Yeah, we're getting really, really busy. It's going to be rally mania coming up. But tomorrow, make sure you check the Facebook page at Culp for Governor, and check the times and the addresses. But I believe it's 1 o'clock.
Yes.
We're having there's a big rally in Yakima. I'm one of the featured speakers.
Yes.
We're going to have Culp swag. We're going to have signs available. All kinds of things. There's going to be food trucks. So if you are listening to this right now and you're in Washington State, it only takes about 5 hours at the most, because I know I drove here from Republic. So a lot of you can get here in less time. Show up tomorrow. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to have a lot of people there. And then Sunday in Sela, I'm not sure what time the one in Sela is.
We've got all of the information. It's at
On
11 a.m. Yeah, it's at 11 a.m. in Sela.
Okay, on our Facebook page,
Yeah,
right?
we had that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's rally is at the Yakima Speedway, which is where that's at, and it's going to be a fantastic time.
Perfect.
So
yeah, I hope to see everybody out there. Bring your Culp sign if you have it. Bring your Culp shirt or hat. If you need those things, we'll have them there. So I hope to see everybody out.
Loren Culp, thank you very much for joining us tonight on this remote VMG here in Yakima. We really appreciate you stopping by.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. Thank you all.
Thank you all. Good night.